Surprise! We're going into roast mode. Fort Steuben Mall in Steubenville, Ohio. And I gotta say, this is one Steuben Mall. This is another bland, dull, and dead mall near the West Virginia border, but it has some surprises that make it exciting in other ways. We shall see in a moment. We'll get the once around out of the way first as per tradition, and you can see from here that the mall looks okay upon first glance, and most of the problems are more occupancy. Empty Macy's, derelict Sears, the usual dead mall indicators. The parking lot, however, while it could be better, looks shockingly okay. And that is particularly shocking when you see how the interior goes. You see, the mountain that this mall sits on used to be a slag dump, and oftentimes with building projects on slag dumps, the ground is not leveled properly for the foundation, and that can lead to unforeseen consequences. Alright now, heading in, you're gonna find yourself in a pretty bland mall. We're back into the malls that feel more like Kmart breezeways than actual malls. It is a step above Hull, however, as you can see squares and stripes of blue, and not as many walls. Exciting. This is unfortunately a popular trend in architecture, it seems, between Hull, Cafaro, and whoever else has a fetish for carpet. Going further in, however, you're going to begin to notice something. That is a very funky ramp to put in a mall. Especially as it goes back that... Oh, hold on. That GNC is offset from the other storefront. Oh no. The floor is buckled. Badly. And that was my defining factor for the Fort Steuben Mall. I've had moments where I can trip over myself walking. Nothing too bad as I can quickly recover and scold myself for being a moron. But here, it's a wonder I didn't trip and faceplant on the buckled floor. I was seriously worried that would actually happen. But thankfully it didn't. That happened at another mall. You go deeper into the mall, and while some parts look fairly decent, you can still see parts of the floor warping, and this is even leading to some leveling issues with certain tenants, as they just appear to be offset from the rest of the storefronts around them. It's actually kinda bizarre. It makes me think of a funhouse, really. One of those tacky haunted house kind of setups. I'll let you in on this. I learned from somewhere. One trick they utilize in those funhouses is building everything just a few degrees off balance. This helps make the victims feel particularly disoriented. I suppose before I harp on the floors any further, we can discuss the history of this mall, or the lack thereof. All I have is that this was the result of an investment by the Goodman Company in 1974, hosting Sears and Kaufmann's as original anchors with Northeast Ohio-based Carlyle's coming into the picture later on in 1975. Unfortunately, there isn't much information available on the mall, and newspapers only turned up a bunch of articles about beauty pageants in the 70s and 80s. I guess Steubenville really loved their beauty pageants. I don't know when Carlisle's was closed off. I don't know when Walmart came in to cannibalize mall space and then shut out the rest of the mall. I don't know when JCPenney came into the picture, although they have had to have come in recent times, given the facade designs. This is a recurring issue I have had with malls, particularly in the Appalachian Mountains. No archives, very few eyewitnesses, and the only people who know how to dig up such lost information won't tell me jack shit about where to look. Hey, dig deep is useless advice when I don't even know where to start digging. Okay, tangents aside. Today, JCPenney and Walmart remain as the only anchors, with Dick's serving as a junior anchor. And Kohan Retail owns this mall, at least as I'm typing all this out. though it would be cruel to blame Kohan for the problems with this mall's foundation. Alright, let's go back to those floors. How did they get this bad? Well, it all goes back to the slag dump that this mall sits on top of. I am no expert in geology or engineering, but in my limited knowledge, slag is not a very stable ground for building on, and it requires a lot of work to level properly so that you don't end up with Fort Steuben Mall. Unfortunately, our friends at the Goodman Company didn't account for this, and they aren't the only ones. Let's look at another mall. Remember Century 3? The best known mall on a slag dump. In the part with all the ramps and the stairs, you could find a big split in the brickwork, and that is the result of building on slag. Although the warping in Century 3 Mall was far less pronounced and barely noticeable compared to Fort Steuben. Eddie DeBartolo, for all of his accomplishments, probably should have accounted for slag building if he wanted Century 3 to live on for 100 years. The Goodman Company should have thought about this as well. I guess the two should have called Ho-Sis Foundation Repair. But ignoring all that, and even just looking at the floors of the mall, think about the infrastructure we don't see. How about the water, gas, and sewer lines below the ground? What about drainage for stormwater runoff? Are there any electrical lines buried beneath the mall? And this is where the more concerning things about this mall's future come in. Any one of those electrical lines could snap and kill power to this mall. Water lines or sewer lines could end up compromised. That unstable ground could mean a number of potential disasters for this mall, and that doesn't account for the long-term hazards to health or the environment when it comes to the slag itself. Maybe I'm overreacting, and the worst thing that'll ever happen to this mall is the death of retail itself. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Alright, that's enough of the funhouse. I'm done ranting and going off tangents about this place. What are your thoughts about the Fort Steuben Mall? The buckling and crumbling foundation is going to sour my perceptions on this place. This mall would need some serious work if it were to remain, and the effort would likely be better spent leveling and starting over, in my opinion. Sorry, Steubenville. Someone goofed with this place. And while we're headed out, what are your thoughts on the commentary style? Do you want more? Or should I just stick to the more traditional route and stagger it out? Do share in the comments below. If you like this video, do drop a like. And if you wish to do so, you can donate a few bucks at Ko-fi, linked in the description below. Don't donate if you don't have the money. Prioritize yourself if you have problems. See you around, Steubenville. And until next time, this is Doomie Grunt, wishing you and the Fort Steuben Mall farewell. Okay, this was a Steuben idea.